even more rough turning. No, turning something that's been rough turned to turning. I hope the walls are thick enough. Hello, yes, piece of Norway maple. Bit of a split going on in there, and it's quite out of round, as you can see. Get a ruler on that. What have we got going across? 7 inches. Turn it 90 degrees, and we've got 7 3/8 of an inch. So first thing, I've got a tiny little hole there. That's the center. Back on the chuck. Return this so I can get a better grip on it, and see where we go from there. Right, so let's get it on the chuck. And the first thing to say is I'm just butting it up against a chuck face. That's because I'm only going to be turning a small foot on this bowl, and then I'm going to reverse chuck it in that new chucking point and turn a recess inside the bowl so I can mount it more securely. I would not recommend this approach for turning the whole bowl. This is just to get me my tenon cut. That'll do us for now, because all I really want to do is get it in this chuck and make a spigot in the side, or a recess inside. Oh, yeah, that'll clear the chuck, so recess will be fine. Right, ordinary sea jaws weren't deep enough to allow me to get my chuck key in, so I've moved over to some O'Donnell jaws. In expansion mode, they should be going in now. Yeah. Now, this is a piece of Norway maple, and it's a very nice grain here, but it's splitting. I suppose I could fill that, but I've done this shape deliberately to allow the side to sort of have a bit more prominence, and so that any technique texture I put on there is going to be more obvious. So it might be a bit of wood that other people might not colour, but it's my bit of wood, so I'm going to colour it. Here we go. So you can see how round it's gone. Maybe I should true it up. It's been on the lathe a few days, but and I need to get the tool rest at centre height. Yeah, there we go. Right, so here I am, just putting some pencil lines on, and I'm not aiming for geometric accuracy. If you've been watching my videos for some time, you know a certain element of the slapdash is what typifies a lot of what I do. But they're there just to give me sort of a rough guideline to work to. And I'm varying the style of cuts. Along the lines, as you can see, more horizontal, but then between them in the little squares, slightly diagonal. And I'm trying to make sure that I remove all of the flat surface of the wood. And I'm going deeper in some places deliberately. Eventually they'll become openings so that you'll be able to see through into the bowl. I'm using a 2-inch or 50mm Arbortex saw blade with 6 teeth on it. I've used this in lots of videos on the Proxon long neck grinder, and the chuck is held in a Simon Hope carving jig, which is absolutely wonderful piece of kit. Okay, here you can see I'm just cleaning off a bit of the furriness of that texturing with a rotary bristle brush that will remove most of it. You can see some of it being caught by the dust extractor there. And then a 220 grit sanding flap. And then back on the chuck, and here I am just sanding the bottom, getting that to as smooth enough to put some finish on, and going in near the chucking point there. And that's the bottom and the outside done for now. As you can see, I hope, on that rim there, that it is still not quite true. So a lot of slow, careful cutting. This is being done with my long grind bowl gouge, and there's quite a sharp turn in this bowl. I've gone for very upright sides so that they'll show the texture off, rather than, you know, going for one of my normal flat platters with a wide rim, which means you can't really use the inside for very much. So hopefully this will be much more useful to someone. But where I'm cutting now, a little tricky getting around that quite tight corner, especially as the sides do flare out a little as they get to the bottom. Now just cleaning off the bottom, and I'll come back and do that inner corner, as it were, with a normal, well, regular or traditional ground bowl gouge. So here I am with my smaller Sorby traditional ground bowl gouge, working around that corner. I have to say that every bit of this Norway maple I've used has cut beautifully. Now, of course, sanding, get the inside done, a bit of power sanding, quickest way of doing that, with dust extraction, of course, but it doesn't really catch a lot when you're power sanding. Now it's time to finish off the outside edge where the deeper texture has been put in. I'm just breaking through onto the inside, doing it at an angle. I think that gives it more of a weathered look, and it's a bit more interesting as well, instead of things being, you know, perpendicular, right angles to each other. And I'm using here a coarse saber-tooth teardrop shaped burr in a Dremel. And once I've opened out those holes, a little bit of hand sanding. I don't want there to be a sharp edge on the inside. So this is just Woodturner's abrasives, the sort of inch wide rolls, torn into 3, twisted round, and then sanding through those holes. Now just cleaning up that rim, and a little bit of hand sanding just to make sure there are no hard sharp edges, because the texture does go all the way to the very top. Colour it, leave it naked. With all the work that's gone into it, if I'm colouring it, it's got to look pretty good. But I suppose it might look nice just completely black if it all goes wrong. Stop recording. And here it is in all its bare, naked wood glory. And I'm not going to keep it like this. It's been in the shed for at least 3, if not 4 weeks, while I'm debating what to do. So I'm going to open it out to some suggestions. Any ideas, anyone, for colouring techniques on the outside of this? The inside I'm going to keep natural, but the outside, I was always intending to colour it, so I'm going to stick to that. I've got some ideas, but you may be able to sway me with your suggestions below. So I've split this into 2 parts, partly to give you an opportunity to put some colouring ideas, suggestions down for me, but also to give me a bit longer to make up my mind about it as well, and also to stop it being such a very long video, and maybe then I can do a slightly longer one looking at the colouring techniques that are used on the outside of this to make it into a wondrous piece of wood art. Or, like I said earlier, cover up my horrendous mistakes by spraying the whole thing black. Until next time, thanks for watching.